Okay. Thank you for joining us this evening. We are now in our fifth and final design thinking webinar for how to use design thinking to overcome the current crisis we're facing with the coronavirus pandemic and all of the impacts it's having to our work. And so this evening, if I can change the slide, oh, there we go. What we're going to do is talk about, do a recap of our last seminar, which was on action and the prototyping process. Look at the action phase canvas, which describes how we prototype, and a quick overview of the overall process of design thinking. And then we'll ask for some feedback, so you can let us know how we can improve the content and information we've shared, or what you'd like to see in the future. So if we look back at the last session, do a quick recap, we focused a lot on this action step of prototyping. And the idea of prototyping is show, don't tell. What we want to do is create something physical, something tangible, even if it's for a service that we can share with others and get feedback. And if we have to do too much verbal explaining, it might be that our prototype isn't developed enough. So we want to make sure that people can understand what we're trying to achieve and that it's solving the problem we set out to solve. With our prototype, the idea is before launching full scale into a solution, we can start to get feedback on what works and what's missing in the solution. And we can start to gather information and say, okay, now that we have something physical and tangible to share, and we put it in front of others, we get it outside of our head, we get to see, oh, okay, maybe this works well, or this doesn't, or what can we even add or expand that we hadn't considered. Another valuable part of the prototype is that, especially when you're working with others, it's really helpful, and Paula and I experienced this in the development of this course, to ensure that your team is on the same page. So that way, if we put something physical down, I could be describing something and have a clear vision in my head, and Paula can be describing something and she has a clear vision, and we think we agree, but when we put it on the paper, we see where maybe we had misunderstood or hadn't included something. So it's really valuable for that as well. When we prototype, we also want to start to think about our solution, not just in isolation, but the overall experience and the overall environment where our solution will be set. Paula, anything to add to this part?
Thank you, Christina. Briefly, I want to add an information about the importance to include the prototype in an environment and test with the proper person in a proper and the real environment. Why? Because very often we consider first of all the first prototype as a, let me say, theoretical approach to the final product. In design thinking, the first prototype is a very useful object that we can use to share with others and to understand if it's a good integration with the environment, with the customer they have to use in the future.
Yeah, that's really key. Thank you for stressing that. And even if sometimes, when we do workshops in person, sometimes we create, we do create the prototype in the workshop. So our first round of feedback might just be from our teammates, but as soon as we can, we want to make sure, as Paula said, to get that prototype out in the environment where in front of the target users. So that way we can get some more helpful feedback and improve our solution. So this idea of prototyping, you can do the search for it. You often see the phrase rapid prototyping. The idea is that you create something quickly and, importantly, low cost. And your first prototype should be something you can do in less than an hour, and it should be done with what you have available, paper or tape, or make a little 3D model or do a storyboard. It's something that's very quick, and you put it down in a physical form. In doing so, it forces you to clarify your idea, and it makes it easier to get feedback on it. As Paula mentioned, you want to start to keep in mind who your target users will be and your target environment, because it's really essential to get feedback from those people in that setting, so you can really expand your knowledge of how your solution will be successful. In order to measure the effectiveness of your solution, you should have some KPIs or some ideas of what you're looking for, what you expect to achieve. You're not necessarily going to tell your target users this, but in your mind, you should think, okay, what has to happen? What do I want to know from feedback to know that my solution is successful? And if those metrics or KPIs aren't being met, then you might have to do a little bit more work on your solution. Once again, this prototype is to make sure your solution solves the problem you identified originally. Another important area is sometimes we get so excited about our solution that we forget that perhaps it's connected to a larger business strategy, especially if you're developing something within an organization. So you always want to make sure that there's a clear connection of how your prototype, how your solution, how you're resolving a problem goes back to the overall business strategy. And you want to set some KPIs and use some value that demonstrates you're contributing to the bigger picture. A prototype shouldn't just be one round, one version. The idea is you put it out there a couple times, collect feedback, and continue to refine until you can go on to the next level and eventually launch a pilot. Paula?
Thanks, Christina. I think it's a very interesting concept that we use the terminology rapid prototyping is an heritage, if you want, from the computer engineering or computer design. And I don't know if you remember the mold production, the mold design, they use the rapid prototyping. And design thinking allows to expand the concept of rapid prototyping, providing in a very short time and very quickly the prototypes that we can test, that we can share with our customer. And yes, quick and low cost is the key, let me say, to experiment very shortly when and what the customer needs.
Exactly. So now we take a quick look at Lucia's from the Italian session, and we looked at her canvas last week. And I would say that, and she was really good. She filled out a lot of details on this, but unfortunately she missed the point, sort of the key point of what a prototype is. And this is a problem I have to say I see more often in Italy though than in other places, but it is a challenge for people, especially in creating services and experiences who aren't used to prototyping. If we look at the canvas, we look at her original problem she wanted to identify, which was she identified the issue, especially in this period of crisis and people smart working, maintaining employee engagement, motivating employees, especially a key role for internal communications, creating some empathy in this area when everybody's separated and working by Zoom and email. So her solution she decided to focus on was to come up with the idea of providing a coaching and training session on the benefits of positive change and working to work with employees to say, okay, we're going through a tough period, but we want to make sure that we look at the bright side of this and we extract the value from this changing environment we're in. So when we asked to describe the prototype, we wanted a description of actually what she's going to produce. In this case, the canvas is not the prototype, but it serves as a framework for you to develop and test your prototype. So, but what she did is she described the pilot project, and she actually has a very nice description of the pilot project, but she didn't describe how she would prototype it. So what we proposed to her is, as this was a coaching, think, well, how can you do a prototype from coaching? So we said, why don't you include some of these details in an agenda? Write a detailed agenda, include who this coaching is for, how many people will be involved, the length of the time of the coaching session, where it will take place, what benefits they will achieve, and then she can distribute this agenda and collect feedback and say, is this something of value? Collect feedback from our potential clients. Is this something that would interest you? Is this something we could schedule? That way she can understand if she's on track and really meeting the needs of her client, of her target users. The other benefit is she might also come out with this with feedback of adding something, not only criticisms, but adding something that she hadn't considered to begin with, so she could even expand her offering. She noted the obstacles, and she noted the corporate strategy goals, so she included those areas as well. She put some KPIs. She did note that some people that she would get feedback on for the idea, not the prototype, but these are certainly people she could talk to about the prototype. She set a timeline, and everything else I think she did. She filled out some helpful details to help her move forward with her project. So the only thing we would have liked to have done is to describe the prototype and then actually make the prototype, and her next step now will be at this point to get feedback on that prototype. Paula, anything to comment on Lucia's?
Oh, no, thank you, Christina. You have explained very well all the content that we have shared. Thank you.
Okay, so now we get to look at Michelle's. And Michelle, thanks. She's been great, giving us wonderful examples to work with and see how she's progressing through her identified challenges and solutions. Michelle, I had a question for you. On this, it looks like are you identifying two possible solutions, if I understand correctly?
Exactly. One that was not on the ideate canvas, and that's the second one. And that is an idea that it's in the back of my mind, and I think it's maybe even more important than this demo that I'm working on. But the demo that I'm working on, that's what I prototyped, and that's what I'm going to do in the short term. But in the meantime, I think there's another opportunity for me to play with. And I didn't have to go back to the idea canvas to put it there, but I wanted to just list that as something I want
there. Okay, well, that's cool. I'm glad that in this work, and it's okay, because design thinking is ultimately a flexible approach. So if in your work you discover something else, it's absolutely correct to add that to your activities. The only thing I would say to go back is if you come up with if something simulates something new, to make sure you go back and validate that as well, and do a little bit of validation work to make sure that that's still something that would add value. But it seems like you're planning to do that. For this, to understand this demo that you're updating, you describe your prototype as a mind map, and comparing the one you had done previously to the new one. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so I also, since you're considering a demo, would it be helpful for you to also include a storyboard or a description of what's going to be in your demo, or do you feel?
I just did it on a functional basis, like which technology do I want to demonstrate? And that is very finite. I want to demonstrate some new data science capabilities. So there's a list of things that were not in my first demo that have to be showcased. And how I'm going to do that, I have to do more research to get a good story using the data to do that. But I mean, I do have ideas. I didn't put it all in the canvas, but yeah, it's all in the mind map.
Okay, so the idea is that you put everything in the mind map, and then you can share that with some key people to get feedback to say, is this on the right track?
Yeah, I'm kind of self-validating that. I think the actual validation will come when the demo is ready, but I do also intend not to spend as much time on the demo as I did on the first one, because as I mentioned, it's easy to get sucked into spending way too much time on it.
Right. Well, I would just say that to me, your actual demo is a more advanced version of the prototype. So if you can find something, of course, validate it yourself and work out some details yourself. But if you could put something on paper, whether it's the a version of the mind map after you developed it, and share that for feedback, that would be what would be considered the prototype. And what you want to do is make sure you tie that in. We didn't include this on the original form, but what we found with working with the last Italian session is we want to make sure we put the original problem we identified at the top to remind us that, okay, this solution is addressing that problem. So if the problem for your customers.
Exactly. This solution will be identifying actually the reaching out more to LinkedIn contacts. So that is the end goal, and the way that I'm doing it is by making another demo.
But aren't reaching out to LinkedIn contacts isn't that your objective?
Yes.
So you want to put, because, and we can make this clear on the canvas, you want to put the problem you're solving for your clients.
No, but I have no clients. That's the problem.
No, I understand, but your potential clients.
Yeah, no,
by offering this demo, you're hoping to find clients and sell them your services, correct?
Correct.
So your clients that you want to sell these services to, you think, okay, what can you, by doing this demo and by offering this business intelligence software and your expertise, what problem are you solving for them? Maybe if it's for them, they're not tracking their data properly, or they're not making the most use of their data, or they're not,
No, it's purely functional. I mean, there was a demo 5 years ago. I displayed some capabilities. The software is advanced. There are new capabilities. It's a very fine.
Okay, no, that's fine. It's fine. Only to say, put that at the top and say, okay, this software can do this for you, and just to make that sort of the cause and effect clear when we talked about cause and effect.
Sure.
But in any case, you added these. You start to fill this out, and I know you did this quickly, but you still put in some interesting details about short term. And you're not sure on some things, but you're continue to work. So I'd say this canvas is a work in progress, but it's helpful to see how you outline some of these things. And then you on the second form, you put on how you communicate. So I think you've done the first layer of this canvas, and as we've been talking about, and as you've already identified, there's a little bit more work to do. But I would definitely urge you to not wait till the demo, but just to put something shareable, just to collect some feedback beforehand, because then I think your demo will be more likely to achieve the results you want it to achieve. Paula, you're on mute.
Sorry, Christina. No, thanks. It's very interesting, the prototype and action that Michelle is creating, but I have nothing else to add to this. Thank you.
Okay, Michelle, I know you admitted that you didn't you worked quickly, but anyway, it's great for you to share this with us and give us something to have some talking points. So thank you. Anything else?
No, as I said, the process was interesting, and the demo is actually something I was working on from the beginning, whether or not I did the canvas. But I did take a step back, so that the mind map was really taking a step back.
Mm-hmm.
But I also am hesitant to go to my contacts with too many questions about what to put in it, because that's the whole purpose of the demo.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, you only get one chance to make a first impression, is my point.
Yeah. No, and that's I understand that point. It may be that you don't go to all of them, but you pick a few or people you trust feedback from, and just to get.
Oh yeah, no, definitely it will be seen by people before it gets wider.
Cool.
showing.
Well, thanks,
Yeah, thank
Michelle,
you.
for sharing this. So here we are now. We've gone through 4 different phases, 4 different canvases. We started with this understanding phase, and the idea that we needed to identify challenges people are facing, combined with our challenges, and see where we can overlap, what we can offer to help somebody else achieve what they're trying to achieve. Then once we've identified that and validated where we see that need and those challenges, we come up with a bunch of new ideas for solutions. The ideas in this phase is we generate as many ideas as possible, taking ideas from other fields, applying our strengths in new areas, very expansive. Then we start to narrow things in. We look at our criteria, what our timeline are, what our budget is, what our priorities are, and pick a starting point, and then we act on that. Our acting phase it starts with the prototyping. The idea is once you prototype, you do, as we talked about, a few different levels of prototyping, hopefully learning and refining more, and then ultimately you go into a pilot test and where you actually put your solution out there in the real world. And even from that, you can continue to improve and refine until you scale it out to a larger audience or add some other features. Paul, I'm going to let you explain this slide that compares design thinking to learning.
Yes, because you have the habit to consider different stage in this design thinking process, but in effect is a circle. We refine and we continue to repeat all the phases of design thinking when we operate, when we are developing a product or services, or we are managing a project. And if you consider the other schema that we have inserted in this slide, we can observe that the design thinking process is exactly like our learning process. This schema, you can find this also in internet, a very similar schema on internet regarding the learning process. In fact, we observe these 4 phases that we continue in our mind to use. The first is that I observe the reality. And when I observe the reality, I reflect in my mind about what I have observed. Then I create some abstract concept, the idea, what about I have observed, and I create my concept. And this is very similar to the 2 phases, the understanding and ideation that I have in design thinking. Then when I have formed concept in my mind, I try to applicate in new situation let me say, approaches, the behavior that I have considered during my previous idea. And I have the possibility to select the situation in which I have to use this behavior. Then I start with a concrete experience about the concept and the prototype, let me say, of my concept that I have to experiment in the reality. And this is exactly the action phase that we have defined in the design thinking. Of course, if you research design thinking phases on internet, you can find different approaches and also different number of phases in design thinking approach. Why? Because design thinking is a mental approach and is like, let me say, a open source approach, because it is adaptable in different situations. What here we are trying to define is an approach of design thinking applied to the crisis, applied to this disruptive situation. In this case, we have to apply exactly the learning process that we use when we have to adapt ourselves to a new situation.
Yeah, Paula, thanks. I really like this because it reminds us that even though we presented this course in a linear format, it's really cyclical. And as Michelle even gave a perfect example tonight, she came up with a new idea. So she can go back and she can go back. The idea is you go back and forth. It's definitely not, you know, a point, you never get to the point of no return. The idea is hopefully if you figure out something else, you can go back and understand it better, generate some new solutions, refine it again, and then further take action, develop your prototype, and go into a new phase, a new development of your solution.
Can I add something that's different but related? Your image was reminding me of the image that for the course I just did on data science. So it's exactly the cyclical as yours is, and it starts with understanding the business, understanding the data, and then eventually modeling it and taking some action on it, but then going around again. So this kind of circle, and here it's called the CRISP method, CRISP, which stands for something I'll have to look up. But I thought that was interesting that they were so similar.
Yeah.
It's true. I'm sorry. I remember a very interesting book that I read a few years ago is by Gert Hofstede, that organization and culture is software of mind. Why? Because we use the same, let me say, phases that we use in analyzing data, in, let me say, creating program. Also, learning machine is working in this way. Also, the artificial intelligence is using this approach, these phases in learning.
I think what I like about there must be, if we're seeing this pattern in different applications, different areas, there must be something intuitive about it. And I think for me, what I think design thinking is a very valid approach, but not only that, it's very stimulating and fun. And so there's some aspect to this that we must have a connection to, and this idea of moving through, there's a great satisfaction of going through these different phases, but also being able to go back and rework things and apply what we've learned to improving things. So what I see when we do this in workshops, there's a lot of enthusiasm and energy, and people respond positively. Not saying it's always easy, but it's a very it's something that's received quite well. And I think when you have that level of enthusiasm and engagement, that generates, much more likely to generate success in whatever you're working on, not to mention the personal satisfaction. So the other point I thought that struck me that I wanted to emphasize is that, you know, we've talked about from the start that design thinking is looking towards the future, and you know, we're very used to making plans based on past information, and certainly that's important, and I want to emphasize that we don't want to discard that. But if you consider there's two types of knowledge, there's book knowledge, what we go to school for, how we study, what we learn, what we can even look up online and do research is knowledge that exists, and it's knowledge from the past. With design thinking, we're asking you to build upon that, and especially in the understanding and prototyping phase, we're asking you to create new knowledge, generate new insights, and this is how you can help look forward. By discovering something new, design thinking gives you a framework which allows you to find that which has not been found before, especially for these challenging problems that we don't have past experience to say, how can we resolve this? Because it's a new situation for this. So design thinking gives a way forward by giving you guidance on how to discover new knowledge. Paula?
Thanks, Christina. Yes, if you remember the stage related to the ideate phase of design thinking, we're discussing about what is an idea. And Pareto said that a new idea is a new combination of old idea. Of course, our knowledge is based on the past, on the knowledge, on our past experience and about the other culture that we have learn by books, by at school, whatever. Okay, but what we have to understand, and this is a very big problem in Italy, is that we have not to see the past with a melancholic approach. Oh, the old time was the best time. No, we have to use all this information to see the future, combine different solutions, and go forward. And this is a very big problem that we have to solve here. I'm sure, because I have a lot of friends by USA, but also in the other, let me say, the Anglo-Saxon world, if you want, they have another way to approach the future. We have a very high risk aversion. And this is related to the problem that we are not looking in a proper way to the future. I think that design thinking provides all the techniques that we can have to use and have to learn to see the future in a good way.
Yes. Yes. Now we would like to ask you either in chat or verbally, or if you don't want to share it here, you could also drop us an email, where Paula and I would like some feedback on the webinar and what we could do to improve it, to add something different, what you took away from it. Would anybody like to comment on this now, or type a comment, or save it all for email? It's up to you.
Yes, could be very interesting if you want to spend few minutes to tell us some feedback. And as Christina already said, here or by email, what do you prefer? Because this will be very important for us, but because we want to organize a new release of this training, of course, in autumn, but also we want to build and create new training, maybe more focused on the field, on the market, and will be very important for us to receive your feedback.
Marco, you're muted, I think.
I shouldn't be. Am I still muted?
Oh, Mike, are you? Oh, sorry, I thought I saw Marco wave his hand. Mike's talking. Okay, go.
Hi, Mike.
Can you hear me? Hi, Al. How is everybody?
Good.
Hello, Mike.
It's difficult for me to give some feedback because, as Paula elegantly put it, there's the Anglo-Saxon world and the non-Anglo-Saxon world. And
it's true.
what I see in this webinar is incredibly helpful, yet I see too much detail. It's almost like it's being taught versus opening up for ideas. I'm sorry if that sounds harsh. That's the only way I can explain it from an Anglo-Saxon viewpoint. It's a lot of detail in here. And that's my overall impression.
So you'd like more interaction. You'd like more back and forth and not so much detail, more discussion. Is that your?
I'd like to hear more of people's experiences. Like this session, Michelle was sharing some of her experiences. I'd like to hear some more experiences, and rather than trying to fit into a framework, for the group itself to build a framework. Maybe that's the best way to look at it. Let's build a framework as we're going along.
Good point.
Sorry, I don't understand, but build a framework as we're going along. Give me an example, what you mean by that.
I'm not sure if I can give a specific example, but like the session that we just went through, comparing design thinking to the way that the human mind works to begin with, how we even create memes and how we remember things and how we experience things. Asking people for an example. Throw out an example, what's meant in a real corporate setting, in a real client setting, Give me an example on how they get stuck with the old thinking. Give me an example of what are the signs that you look for that they're stuck in old thinking. You know, give examples of how do you want to blow up their old thinking.
Mm.
Anglo-Saxon world, we like to blow things up. So, um, that kind of thing. That's what I'm saying. Make it, give us examples, give us clients, show us real in the weeds stuff that we've all encountered.
Mm-mm.
Yes, this is an important point because it's very consistent with the open approach and open source approach of design thinking. This is a very important feedback. This that we have to consider, Christina. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I'll throw an example in. You know, people are used to throwing out a lot of terms, and one of the terms that's probably used in the non-Anglo-Saxon world a lot is, you know, base measures, baselines, all this kind of stuff. Let's do an environmental scan. Let's do that kind of stuff to see what our competitors doing. Let's do best practices analysis. And those are all the tools that companies use to look backwards.
Yep.
Thank you, Mike. This is very important.
Okay.
Thank you. Michelle, we have, I found it useful. Some of processes I do intuitively, but some was new. Taking time to focus on it and all, and the process was useful. Process of creating persona, most innovative for me. Thanks for your work. Thanks to you, Michelle.
Yeah, no, I just, yeah, there's something about when you look at something, it changes. You know, I don't know what exactly I'm trying to quote, but the process of looking at something automatically changes the thing you're looking at. So it was just, I enjoyed the process. Yeah, and also being asked to do homework. I work well when somebody gives me deadlines. Otherwise, it just stays a kind of fluffy concept.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if a webinar that followed more Mike's approach would be as useful to me, because if something was too open-ended, then I'm not sure I know what we're trying to define. So I did find the structure useful.
I agree. I agree with what Michelle is saying. I think it's a different, once again, it's two different worlds in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I agree with what Michelle is saying.
Yeah. The only thing I did expect, but that was probably more because of the title, that it was specifically going to be, COVID-19 based innovations. And this is really just innovation for anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm.
And Michelle, as a side note, I think what you're referring to, the quote that you might be looking, and it could be off, that's Schrodinger's cat, which is to observe is to disturb.
Yes, great.
Yeah. Thank you, Michelle.
Thanks.
And Marco, do you want to add something about your feedbacks?
Well,
Marco.
not much. I just want to congratulate your effort, and it was valuable for me because I learned quite new angles about this design thinking that I am a total ignorant, by the way. I'm a certified ignorant on this. So, so it was delicious to have the benefit of your artwork, because these slides, they don't come up by chance, you see. So there are a lot of hours here, and when I am seeing them, when the course is over and all of this, it's interesting to see, to go deeper on the things that you put, and they have meaning and why they are those things there. So I want to congratulate you for the effort, and that the effort was translated in results. You see, so it turned out very nicely. And another thing that I like on this seminar is Parizzi, that she is very straightforward, you see, with the clear messages, clear points that she wants to have it clarified. It helps. It helps a lot. Uh, I don't know this because what I'm going to say now is very much for you to think about it, and is very much that I think you should, yes, keep on doing the seminars and the webinars. Maybe try to brainstorm a bit to find some way that you would have more somehow a critical mass on certain topics, you see, and this is I am in the brainstorm mode, so don't give much attention to what I'm saying. But imagine that in Italy you could generate a webinar relating where design thinking and nurtures internationalization of startups, Italian startups. You see, so something like this. So like this, you could have fund managers of Italy that are investing in the startups in Italy, and the could be a kind of good ecosystem for you to grow, to have consulting projects moving on to the startups that where the payers wouldn't be so much the startups, but would be the fund managers. You see, so this is just some thought that for you to consider or not that I would like to share.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, Marco. It's something we are looking into. Right? Should we address specific areas and something we're thinking about? But thank you. That's very helpful. Your feedback as the feedback from Mike and Michelle.
Yes, if you are curious, we can share also with you the Italian feedbacks. And a lot of people ask to us, like Mike, to have a more interactive and more, let me say, practical example about design thinking, and we have to consider that. Other people ask that they will recommend these courses to all people, not only for entrepreneur, for professional, but also for the, one participant said also for the private life, because design thinking can help to reorganize also our personal life. This is an interesting point. And of course, we can stay focused also on the setup. This Marco suggestion is, I think, is a very good idea. And of course, we can stay maybe with more on the example and minus on the details, as Mike, but also other Italian participants said. So thank you very much for your, because believe me, are very, very useful for us to improve this kind of webinar. Christina.
Yeah, no, and thank you. I mean, I think Paula and I, we really enjoyed going through this process and talking about a topic that we're both very passionate about. And thank you for joining us each week and finding time, and for your questions and input. It's really helpful, and it helped me learn a lot and enjoy the moment even more.
Yeah. So thank you very much, and we hope to have it with us for the next webinars about other topics that I hope you can find interesting for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. So if there's nothing else, we'll wrap it up, and I'm sure we'll be in touch with all of you for whatever reasons. But thank you again for your time and your participation.
Yes, of course, and we will send to you this last video about the training, and of course we remain in contact for any further information.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Mm.